This program is powered by thevirtual.show, making your offline events virtual. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of WEBIT Virtual, Dr. Plamen Russev.
Hello and welcome. We're going to be having a wonderful live program of WEBIT Virtual with the leading media forum and some truly amazing guests here in our studio. You shall hear a little bit more about them later. And of course, you will hear their thoughts and beautiful minds sharing their vision on how brands cope with COVID-19. We've been having this topic COVID-19 for so many times at WEBIT Virtual that I really hope for the day when I shall not mention that at all. But unfortunately, we still don't see that on the horizon very close. So we will continue helping you find your way and support your efforts of making the most of this situation. But we shall be not only talking about how to survive. Actually, there are always some who win and some who make more value from situations like this. So you will hear also good case studies and opportunities that you might use for your own business and future projects. In order to start, first I would like to go back in time just 24 hours and would like to remind you yesterday's great virtual edition where we were selecting the winners among 3 fantastic startups. If you have missed that program, go back in time through our time capsule on virtual.webit.org and find out who were the startups and who was the winner. I'm not going to tell you now, so you can do that and do it after this show. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce one after another my wonderful guests here in the virtual studio of WEBIT. Let's see who is the first one.
Tiber Leland is the president of Sterling Marketing Group, a branding, marketing, and color strategy and implementation firm where she works on building stronger personal, business, and team brands. Karen has worked with a highly diverse group of industries, and she is also the best-selling author of 9 books.
Karen, such a pleasure having you in our studio. Finally.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. Let's share the truth about this this visit to the studio. It was supposed to be your second today.
It was.
But as you were joking with us, we'll be having you 3 times now, and 3 good reasons to go to a hairdresser.
Yes, it means I had to do my hair and makeup 3 times instead of 2.
We are so grateful, Karen, to have you with us. I look forward to hear from your thoughts and visions on from the perspective of a best-selling author, from your participation in many different programs, being a columnist and writing for Inc. magazine, and of course your successful career as a consultant with brands. So all this together would make a wonderful combination, and I'm sure great value for our viewers.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me introduce you our second participant.
Antetomaso is a correspondent and TV presenter at Forbes with 2 decades of daily on-air experience. Angela began her broadcasting career in New York, working first at CNN International and then at Bloomberg Television as a news anchor.
Angela.
Hi.
Hello. Wonderful to see you with us.
Wonderful to be here. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Grazie mille. So I look forward to hear from you different points of views from all the rest of our participants. You have a very diverse background. Now, currently, I know you're traveling between London and New York, working for Forbes TV on their Italian channels. but also with your Italian background, I'm sure you can give us a deep dive in one of the most affected European countries with COVID. So thank you so much for accepting.
Yes, absolutely. And I was traveling between New York and London. That was until a couple of months ago, and then they stopped me. So, but yes, I will keep on doing that when we go back to normality. And I'm very happy to talk about my home country as well.
I love to hear about your home country. I never thought I'm going to say that I miss airports, right? Never thought in my life. I say it too often.
Me too. Me too. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Let me introduce you our next participant.
Rhett Power is a weekly columnist for Forbes and Inc. magazine. He is CEO of Power Coaching and Consulting and hosts Power Punch Live, one of the most popular business talk shows on LinkedIn's new live platform. Rhett was recently named the 2018 Best Small Business Coach in the US.
Rhett, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, it's great to be here. Love what you're doing. Thank you.
You're very generous. At the second you showed up on the screen, and we have a jump in our viewership with up to 7,400. That's what the influencer is doing, right?
Oh, I can't take credit for that, but okay.
Thank you so much for joining, and I look forward to have a wonderful discussion, the four of us together. And since I say four, we have actually one more participant. Let me introduce you who he is.
Steve Strauss is a senior columnist at USA Today. In the years since, Steve's Ask an Expert small business advice column has become maybe the most popular column of its type in the country. Steve Strauss is often called the country's leading small business expert.
Hello and welcome. How are you, Steve?
I am great. It's great to be here. Love what WEBIT is doing, and I gotta say, I do have one up on Karen. I only had to have my hair done once today, so I got that going for me.
Steven, you look so good. Look at me. This is my Corona style. Like and you will not believe who did it to me. It was actually there are two: my wife and my kids. My older boy. So
I was doing a webinar a couple weeks ago, and they did it in two parts. And for whatever reason, technical glitches, it took 3 weeks between the two parts. So I had to get a haircut, and my wife had to do my haircut, so I looked like I had looked 3 weeks earlier. COVID life. Hashtag.
That's the magic of COVID. It keeps us young forever. 3 weeks, no time. It's fine.
Right.
Thank you for joining. It's good to start with positivism and with smiles, and I'm very hopeful we will finish the same way, the five of us together in our virtual studio, because we, the WEBIT community, are a positive digerati, people of a lot of positive energy to make the positive change and to create the desirable future together. And I'm so grateful because the four of you are joining us now for the first time, and bring your light to the ray of light that WEBIT is sending to the world. Thank you so much to four of you. And I would like to start with my questions. And obviously, we shall be speaking about COVID. Obviously, we shall be speaking about how brands cope with the challenges that we have in front of us. And we already had a lot of participants. We had people from, we had, of course, Raja Rajamanar, who is the chairman of Brand Innovation Summit of WEBIT. We had the chairman of the Federation of the Advertisers. We had the CMOs of many companies. Now we have great leaders like you who care about small and medium companies, who have a huge power of voice, being part of so many respectful and impactful media. That's very important. I'm very grateful for you being here. And I'm sure all these 8,300 people live now want to hear you. So my first question is to Karen, who is a regular columnist at Inc. magazine and several other editions, to comment on the drastic change and dramatic change in media as a result of COVID-19. What journalists are really looking for in this current media environment, Karen?
We know there was some research done recently, and something like 90% of journalists say that they get pitches that are off point, not what they're looking for, not what they cover. And I think one of the things that's happened in this whole COVID, by the way, I think it was heading this direction anyway, but I think COVID accelerated it, as it has many things. There's really been this shakeout where journalists are looking at people who say, oh, well, I'm a thought leader in this, I'm a thought leader in that, I'm an expert in this. And they're really narrowing their field to look at who really is an expert. So I think it's really incumbent upon PR firms and branding people and people like myself that are branding strategists to make sure that when we're putting people in front of the media, we're not wasting their time. We really are giving them people that don't have sort of an expertise in that area, and you could sort of stretch it, but they really are thought leaders. They really are experts. They really have something to contribute to the conversation that's useful, that's valuable, that's practical. I think respecting journalists' time like that is probably more important now than ever. And I think from the side of the journalists, really looking at people that are verified in that way, that do bring that to it, I think is really, really important. And again, I do believe it was heading in that direction anyway, but COVID has just accelerated it dramatically. I know that the journalists I'm talking to right now, and I know myself as a writer for Inc.com and Entrepreneur and Forbes and those places, myself as a writer, I'm very particular about if someone is an expert. And I know the journalists I'm speaking to really want to know not what's your flash, right? But what's your substance? And I think that's a good thing, because I think to some degree, we all got very caught up in this influencer marketing issue. Not that that's a bad thing, but it can be about the hype and about the flash rather than about the substance. And I think we're moving much more to a place of substance.
Thank you so much, Karen. I cannot agree more than this, because we really need substance more than ever. And talking about substance, let's move and widen our focus with my question to Angela. And Angela, let's define what is the meaning, the true meaning of brand innovation in times like this.
Well, as we were saying before, everything is changing now. COVID will redesign society, redesign the world. We know that, okay? This is going to happen no matter what. Probably, we won't see many people going to the office anymore. Probably most of us will start working or will continue working from us, actually all over the world. We know that already, giants like Twitter or Google just said, until the end of the year, you can stay at home, work from home, whatever. So this is already something very, very important and a huge
Actually,
change.
Twitter said now on, you can be at home forever.
Exactly. So, even better. I heard only until the end of the year, but obviously, this is a big change. And so this is just one of the changes. What I think is very important is that now, obviously, lots of companies failed or are going to fail, unfortunately, but to survive, small and bigger business will have to adapt. It's not a matter of being disruptive anymore. Normal times, usually you are disruptive to, leave your mark. Now, it's a matter of adapting. It's a matter of evolving. So evolution is key now. And so, just let's look at what's happening with COVID. You're talking about, before you were saying about my country, but this has been happening all over. I've seen in the US, in the UK, all over the world. Doctors are experimenting with, the normal drugs, with aspirin, with vitamin C, with heparin, just to try to save lives. And they are changing, they are evolving, they are adapting, and they are finding, new methods. I think that for a company is more or less the same story. They have to adapt. Just let's look, for example, and again, I connect again to my country, to Italy, the big luxury brands from Prada to Gucci to Armani. And now what are they doing? Instead of, just staying there, not doing anything at all for, months and months and months, they had the facilities. They decided to, to manufacture PPEs, the medical overalls, face masks, hand sanitizing gel, and everything else. This means they're adapting. Now, talking about brand innovation and about brand strategy, if they had just given money to someone, to hospitals, because they've been giving millions of euros to many hospitals and many people in Italy, if they had just done that, it would have been not such a huge strategic move like the one they're doing now. What we needed in times of crisis was face masks, overalls, medical overalls, and sanitizing salts. So they came in, they already had, the facilities, and now they're stepping in, rolling up their sleeves and doing something. Ferrari is making ventilators. So that's a huge change. This is the evolution. This is the adapting of the big brands.
Fantastic! I love it. By the way, there's this stupid joke that I couldn't stop by saying it. So you know that the coronavirus was brought by the producers of masks, and only the lipsticks producers will save us from that.
That's a good point. Tell me and Karen, right?
Yeah, Stephen. So, what do you think? Has coronavirus changed the brand dynamics? We just saw, right? You heard from Angela, producers producing ventilators. How did this brand dynamic change?
It absolutely has changed. I mean, obviously, COVID has changed everything, but insofar as brands go and running a business, things are fundamentally different today than they were six weeks ago. As we all know, the question is, how are you as a business, as a manager, as a business owner, going to respond to the new variable? Let me give you an example of a company that did it right. So back in the early 80s, Tylenol had 35% of market share in the United States, worldwide, really, 35% for pain relievers. Someone in the US started slipping cyanide poison into Tylenol capsules. 8 people died. That's because there was no tamper-proof caps or safety measures on any bottle at that time. So for any, it's kind of like a COVID crisis, right? All of a sudden, people are dying as a result of taking your pill that's supposed to make them feel better. So what did Tylenol do? They went proactive. They voluntarily took all Tylenol off the shelf, and then in the process invented safety-proof capping. Didn't even put their product back on the market until they had perfected a way to safety-proof the caps, to make it child-proof, to have little plastic things on top, that whole thing that we all know now. Then they put it back on the market and became known as the safest company. They went from being the most unsafe company where people were dying to the safest company. For the brand, what happened? They took the threat seriously. They were transparent. They let people know. They used their PR efforts to let people know what they were doing. And then they learned a lesson and went back out. So I think for any company dealing in this COVID world, and I write for Small Business for USA Today. I have a content company. We create content for large companies who have a small business channel. Everybody's trying to figure out how to cope right now. One of the things you can do as a brand is, at a minimum, look responsive, be responsive. What are your people looking for? What are your clients? What are your customers looking for? Safety. What's uppermost, among other things, in people's mind right now is safety. So you have to, among other things, make sure that your brand is a safe brand, that your place of business is a safe place to go as you begin to reopen, however you're going to do your business. Safety and health are two of the things you have to really emphasize and let people know that you are emphasizing.
Thank you so much, Stephen. The same question for Rhett, because I think that here you can add another point of view, Rhett. Am I right?
Well, I don't know. I agree with everything that Steve said. However, I think that's the contact-free, that I'm going to call it the contact-free economy that we are getting ready to come into, right? And I think that's going to be a customer expectation. I think the brands that do this well, the brands that understand because I think there are a few things that are changing, right? Customers' behavior change is, if you're not thinking about what customers are thinking and how they're feeling right now, I don't think you're going to be successful in this sort of new reality that we're all facing. So I do agree with Steve wholeheartedly. I think you have to take it a step further. You have to care about what your employees are thinking, because if you're not addressing their safety concerns, if you're not addressing their anxiety about coming back to work, I think you're going to struggle. I think that the companies that figure that out, figure out how to take care of the safety of their customers, the safety of their employees, and at the same time figure out what the new realities are going to be for their product and their services, are going to really do well. I mean, if you're moving fast right now, if you're including your team in the decisions and the problem solving, I call it collective intelligence. If you're listening to everybody in the organization about what's changing, I think you're going to do well. If you're moving quickly and taking action on these new changes, I think you're going to do okay. So I like I said, I agree with Steve, but I think that companies, they've got a lot more to figure out now than just safety. They've got to figure out the product. Is it relevant still? Do we need to make changes? So I think that there's a whole range of things that companies have to look at now to really survive and actually grow in the next few months and in the next years. It's hard to know right now what to expect. I think we're all operating with a lot less information and a lot less certainty than we used to. But I think that's our new reality, and we have to adapt, and we have to move quickly to make changes.
Thank you so much, Rhett. And now I have a question for all of you, because at the end of the day, you are the voice for the industry, and we have now like over 9,000 people watching, and many of them most probably entrepreneurs and brands and CMOs and people from media relations within the companies, and maybe a lot of your colleagues. I'm sure there is innovation is really exploding now. We've seen so many creative waves of surviving. I mean, look at this, what we are doing now. We used to be meeting once per year, somewhere in a great place, bringing together 15,000 people from all around the world and celebrating professional and business connections face to face, in person. And now we do every day, almost every day, these shows, and we have been tenfold bigger than ever before. So a question for you: what is the thing that media will look at the business in order to share it, in order to make it popular, in order to give it wings to fly? Because every innovation needs this. What will be the thing that you would like to hear and to see so you can write about it? Well, you pick it.
I'll go first. That's all right with everybody. Like many of you, I get pitched all day, every day, and often it's the same pitch. All right, but what my readers were thinking about 2 months ago is not what they're thinking about today. And so when what your customers wanted 2 months ago is not what they want today. What they want from you is something probably altogether different. Now, of course, they want their products and services and things like that, but they want additional things too. So the question is the pivot. How well is a company pivoting? How are they pivoting? And how are they doing it in a way that's unique and different and special? So I can just speak for me. I'm looking for something where someone's giving me a story with an angle that I haven't quite seen before, one, and two, that I think is going to be really interesting to the people that I'm trying to educate and entertain. If I can get those two things, something new and something valuable, well, then you're going to get me to pay attention to what you want me to write about. And I'll, write about it well and make you look like a star. Too often what happens is you get the same pitch, or you get 8 paragraphs of a press release, and nobody wants to read a press release 8 paragraphs long. Make it pithy, quick, interesting, new, different. To me, I think that's what works in keeping the COVID in mind, because that's what we're all writing about right now.
I think,
Thank you so much. Yeah, please.
I love what Stephen said, and I'm just going to add to that. I think it's also about credibility, because right now, how your reputation online is your reputation. You know, we have more eyeballs than ever looking at people online, websites, social media, and I continue to be amazed when I talk to businesses, small businesses, entrepreneurs, how bad they look online. Their websites are out of date. Their social isn't really working well. They don't even have their branding together, not just in language, but in identity, brand identity, how it looks. And you have to think about it from a producer or a journalist point of view. The first thing they're going to do is go check you out online. They're going to look at your LinkedIn profile. They're going to look at your website. And if you don't look credible, then the chances of you being able to be used as a source for that journalist go down very far, let alone customers. I think customers are looking to see how people look online right now and judging by that. And I've talked to a lot of small businesses that have said to me, well, I don't want to spend the money right now to like improve my website or improve my social. And my point is, you can't afford not to. You absolutely have to be representing yourself online, consistent with how you are. You have to be absolutely representing yourself online, not in any way false or phony or more than you are, but as great as you are. And there's really a lot of people that aren't doing that. And I want to add that I think there's a lot of, you know, I do a lot of CEO branding and executive branding. There's a lot of CEOs and a lot of executives and a lot of CMOs that don't look very good online, that aren't well represented online, whose LinkedIns aren't where they should be, whose social isn't where it should be. And so no one has the luxury of not looking good online anymore. None of us, not as individuals, not as workers, not as, you know, managers, not as CEOs, not as small businesses. We just don't have that luxury anymore. And I think a lot of people still aren't getting that they need to get that part together.
No one has the luxury not to good look anymore.
Well, online.
Can I add? Can I add?
I'll say that.
Yeah, Angela. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
There's some really things that are exciting me, and what I'm really looking for in my writing and in my conversations with small and medium enterprises, and it's the companies that have made this digital transformation, and that's what Karen was really just talking about. And they've made this digital transformation almost immediately. Two companies come to mind, and they're small companies. One is a dog grooming service, I think up in Connecticut, and she immediately started. She revamped her website and her social presence, and invested in that. And what she's doing is she's now selling pet supplies and clothing, pet clothing, and other pet accessories. And she's transformed her business from a small little community store to a national, she's shipping all over the country. And there's a bakery down in Miami that was a small local bakery that is now selling goods all over the country because they invested in this infrastructure. And so I think that's just fascinating that there are companies out there that get it and made that change immediately. And those are the kind of stories that I'm really looking for in my writing and in my conversations, because I think those give hope to other entrepreneurs and other small businesses that they can make that change. And that's exciting to me. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of heartbreaking stories right now, but there are also, if you look and you search for them, there's some really heartwarming and exciting things that are going to come out of this.
I'm so happy that you share this, honestly, because, I mean, think about it. I mean, we are pitched, right, every day, several times per day, sometimes many times per day. In my case, also for investments, not only to be on our stages. And when somebody is using the COVID situation, telling me, hey, you have to help me because, I said, dude, do you realize that I was in a business that was forbidden by law? That from today till tomorrow, you can't do anything. Forget that there is COVID out there. It's just forbidden. Right. And from that point of view, when you've been investing the whole year, building this amazing community and bringing it together, tens of thousands of tickets, partners, exhibitors, hundreds of them, and then you just go and cancel and refund. I don't think it can get worse. Well, I don't complain. We just reinvented ourselves. We've created television, and then we've created this show, and we bring the people together, and we still add value to the community globally. And you are trying to sell me sympathy for COVID? We're all under the COVID. We just need to be inventive. What do you think?
Can I add something? Just wanted to connect to what all of you said. What Karen said is, nobody can afford, not to look good online. And okay, we are here doing this via Zoom. I know that I look better when I do things from the studio than when I do it on Zoom. So that's definitely something I would like to share with you, but also because this is a problem for everyone, but also what Rhett and Steve and you were saying, actually, things have changed so much and so quickly from one day to the other, as you said, Plamen. Things, were forbidden from one moment to the other. For example, now with TV, what I'm doing is I'm recording my show on Zoom. It's not the same quality. It's not the same, beautiful studio in the background. It's nothing to do with what I used to do in a studio, I could do in a studio. But in this case, the silver lining is that now I can interview guests who are not necessarily in the town where I'm recording, not necessarily have to come all the way to the studio. They can be all over the world. So, you can interview people who are in Asia or who are in the US or who are in Europe, wherever. And this is what you are doing now, because every day you're interviewing people who are all over the world. So this is a huge change and a huge plus. That's definitely one of the things that are absolutely changing. And then something else, all these heartwarming stories that will come up, and they're already coming out, thank God, obviously will leave us with something like, obviously, all that's happening is really, really sad and terrible. But we can all grow from this. We can all learn and grow. And as I was saying before, adapt. Probably this is the best way. And, Plamen, you seem to be very happy to be doing this. I will be happy to be in Spain now. And, as all of us, I suppose, to this beautiful WEBIT, event that was supposed to happen in June. But at the same time, yes, I mean, we are here and we are able to do this from the comfort of our own home. And we can do it, with all the people who are all over the world at the same time. And this is the great thing that's happening now.
Angela, just to reflect on your positive race of energy. First, you look amazing. Second,
oh, well, thank you.
We are in a beautiful virtual studio. And we can help you because we've been working with our partners from the virtual show. And they have provided this amazing environment, beautiful and interactive. And it's amazing. So I'll be more than happy to provide you with a solution. So next time you are in any studio you would like, and invite your guests. This was part of our reinvention. This was part of us trying to keep the quality of WEBIT experience, the wow stages and everything around it. So of course, now being in front of the camera, you don't see what our 8,000 people viewers see. But afterwards, you will see it's great.
Thank you. I really hope so. I know usually, it's a different story. We were talking about, makeup and hairdresser and everything. That's a problem, right, Karen? Mostly for us girls, right?
Right. The guys don't have that problem.
Exactly.
Hey, Plamen, I just want to weigh in on
they can't fully understand.
I want to weigh in on something that I think touches everything everybody said, which is, I think pre-COVID, we lived in an or world, right? There was live or virtual. And you had live events, you had virtual events, you had live businesses, you had virtual businesses. And I think one of the, and virtual, let's face it, was kind of considered the stepchild of live. Like if you had to do it, you would, but it wasn't considered quite as good. And I think one of the huge sea changes out of COVID is we're going to live in an and world. I think we're going to have live events, and every event that's live is going to have a virtual component. I think all businesses, to Rhett's point, are going to have a digital transformation, and they're going to keep doing their business in the traditional way. So I think one of the benefits of COVID, and again, not to take away from any of the suffering economically or physically, that people have had. But I think one of the transformations and one of the benefits is it's having us live in an and world when it comes to virtual and digital. And I think that's so important for businesses and for us as individuals. I think that's going to open up a whole world of possibilities for people personally, for people in business.
Absolutely.
And so I think that touches a little bit on what everybody said.
And I want to add something to Kieran. I think it's such a well taken point. And I wanted to take, in fact, and look at what you're doing at WEBIT as an example of a pivot being done right. Like we're all talking about how to pivot and how to evolve your brand. WEBIT, you've done something kind of remarkable to take such a big event and all of a sudden become an online platform that's doing so well. Many companies can't do it so quickly. However you're going to do it, I think the important thing to remember is it has to be authentic. The change you're going to make when you pivot online, when you add the digital to your brand, is a pivot that has to be authentic to your brand, especially what people are looking for today, especially what millennials are looking for today, long before COVID, are brands that are authentic, right? That they can believe in, that they don't feel are lying to them. Well, it's not easy to pivot your whole business in 5 weeks and have it be authentic, but you got to do it. You just got to do it, because otherwise you're going to lose your audience. Your audience that you built up so far has certain expectations of you. What is your brand? Your promise. It's your promise to your customers. That same promise has to be transferred in a way that is authentic and real online. Now, what that looks like for you is going to be different than what it looks like for me, but we're seeing a company right in front of us right now do it, properly. So kudos, and I'm not saying that in a disingenuous way. I'm saying here we have a lesson on how to do it right, and so we should all learn from that.
And I think it's forcing companies to think like that, right? I talked to a CEO yesterday, and he said, this has pushed our company 10 years forward, because I've been trying to sell this digital transformation. I've been trying to sell at work from home for a long time, and this has forced it on us. And people now realize that they like it, and so they're having to rethink their whole posture. I mean, they've got massive offices around the country, and I think that they're going to have to rethink, and they are rethinking their whole posture in terms of physical locations. I mean, and I think it's going to change the way, it's going to change our cultures in our businesses. It's going to change the way we think about how we deliver our services and how we do our operations.
I wouldn't lie to you. Because I promised my team I'm going never to lay off anyone. And because we knew what is going to happen, obviously. We see it, we have like 15, 20, 30, 100 calls per day. So now the people who are doing this somewhere in the studio are people who used to be producing live events in person. They never knew how to do these things. So basically, when we talk about digital transformation, my team digital transformed themselves for less than a month. And they became experts in broadcasting, experts in networks, experts in hardware. That's it.
If I can
add, do it, or you're off.
Can I just wanted to say something, Plamen, because actually, if you think about it, you've done it in, as you say, a month, and there are people who have to do it even quicker, or will take 2 months or 3 months. But the great thing in a way is that we are all in this together. I mean, everyone needs to adapt. Then you can learn how to do it in a month or 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever, but we will have to learn. As you know, again, I had to learn how to do all the shows via Zoom and all these kind of things. And we are here, we're speaking to the rest of the world. And again, a silver lining. We can all be doing this one day from Hawaii. We can be in the Maldives and be doing this. And, you know, you never know. Why not? Probably will be the death of the office as we know it. Probably lots of people will be happy to stay sitting at home and enjoy their family. But hey, why not doing from, again, Hawaii, wherever you want to be
I'm
now.
with Angela.
Angela, you're picking the right words.
Let's go to let's do it from Hawaii.
I'm with you.
You know, the reason it worked for you, the reason it worked is because you gave those guys, you gave your team the confidence that you weren't laying them off, right? And once they had that security, they could come together and find solutions on how to transform the business. And I think you made a powerful, an early right move to give them that security and that confidence that they didn't have to worry about that. And I think that was a brilliant move.
It's funny, they all listen to you now. So guys, I love you. You are just true stars.
Plamen, I also just want to say that one of the things that I've really seen strongly is digital transformation, and it's come up on the panel. It is the technology, but it is also learning how to use these technologies differently. Because I do a lot of personal branding and a lot of branding with companies. It's not just, when we talk about how it looks, there's the physicality of your website and your social, and that they have a certain look and feel and messaging to them, right? But there's also the translation of how you would do things in person to how you do things on video. Like I have a client, it's a big university, and they're having to train all of their professors. They're telling their professors, you can't just stand up and do on Zoom what you used to do in the classroom. It won't work. You have to translate it to video. So I think there's also this huge learning curve that people are going through about how, like Angela was pointing out, she's had to learn to do this by Zoom, right? How do you lead something by Zoom? How do you interview by Zoom? Like even for me, because I'm a certified color strategist, I'm always working with people on what colors should you be wearing on camera, right? Like what colors like Angela, you look great, by the way, great colors.
Karen, I like your colors too.
Thank you. But truly, we sometimes forget that color has an enormous psychological impact. So the colors we're wearing, depending on what kind of meeting we're trying to lead on Zoom, can have a very subtle psychological impact. So I think there's this whole learning curve that's not just the technology, it's the way that we communicate with other people, right? I think that's really important, and it's easy for that to be missed. Because I'll be honest, sometimes I watch experts on TV now, and in my mind, I go, I love what they're saying, but if they were learning how to say it differently for this medium, or they were learning how to dress differently for this medium, it would amplify their credibility. It's not that they're not credible. It's not that what they're saying doesn't make a difference. It's that they could amplify it and have it be heard better if they understood the medium better, both how you communicate on it, how you use it, etc. So I just don't want to miss that it's not all technological. There is a personal brand piece to it as well.
I have a question for all of you. Sorry, Stephen. Yeah, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going. There's a really interesting question. What is digital leadership look like? Because we all have become digital leaders to one extent or the other. I saw an article by General Stanley McChrystal, who is the head of the UN forces in Afghanistan, and he thought he was going to come into Afghanistan and into the UN and UNESCO and be this chess master or a general, and he's going to move. And he realized that's not going to work when he has people thousands of miles away. He had to become what he called a digital leader. And what he finally decided was the chess master, where you tell people what to do and they're going to do what you say, wasn't going to work. Actually, what he had to do was become a gardener. A gardener sets the context for their people to thrive and flourish. He waters them and helps them and feeds them and encourages them, and then trust that they are going to grow and do the right thing when they're out on their own, working at home in this case, right? So digital leadership, very different than being able to have everyone in one place and encourage them. It's just an interesting idea that even a brand has to start to think about, and leaders of those brands have to start thinking about as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I would like to take a crystal ball now and use that crystal ball to predict. And I know you can do it because you've seen so many stories. You've compared those stories. You remember when you did right and wrong choices, praising or writing not so many negative things about some businesses. Now, how do you see the next wave of success and failure because of the major changes we see in the society? They are happening, right? Someone saying, yeah, not everything's going to be back. I'm not a believer in the back. I believe in the BC,
before COVID and after. So who is going to take the crystal ball first and to make a prediction? Businesses who will burst, businesses who will grow, businesses who will maybe reach the plateau and going down?
I can just start if you want.
Please,
if,
Angela.
if everyone is okay. I just wanted to say, because also, again, connecting to what you were saying, BC and, and then before coronavirus and after coronavirus, so everything will be completely different. And now is 100% different. Tomorrow will be 80% different. In 6 months will be 60% different. But even in 1 year or 2 years' time, I don't think that things will go back to the way they were, in 2019, 18, or even the beginning of this year. I really think that something will definitely change now, be it, as we were saying, the office, the social media, brand innovation, everything we have been saying, and all the things that you have been saying with your guests in the past few weeks, and will be saying in the future. Now, brands. Lots of companies, unfortunately, will fail. Lots of companies will have to reinvent themselves just to be able to grow, just to be able to go on. And I think from what I hear from my guests, from speaking to the many people, things will be very difficult now for a while, because adapting, adjusting, changing, evolving is not an easy thing for everyone. Again, as we said before, people could do it in a week or 2 weeks or a month or 6 months, but there will be lots of people who really will struggle and already struggle to get used to this change. So, and there are probably lots of people who had to learn how to use a computer, the social media. Just think about all the many elderly people who are not familiar, for example, even with social media, not being able to see their families, and they need to learn how to use the basic medias now just to communicate with them, and all of this. And this is more or less the same with companies. So probably it will take a long while. I mean, it will be very, very gradual. The economy will likely, hopefully, start, going back to normal and everything in a matter of months or years. But our life, the way we knew it before, is not coming back. And this is what we really need to understand, and we really need to adjust to. This is the big difference, As you say, I miss airports. You have no idea how much I miss airports. I mean, I was on a plane, sometimes 40 times a week, and honestly, I do miss that. It won't be possible anymore. I know that there will be another reality. There will be a great reality, though, and we'll need to learn from it and grow from it, as I said. Whenever this is going to happen, it's up to us.
I hear you, and our hearts speak in synchronicity here. I think we're all aware. The question is really to give all these people with us now, above 8,000 people, our vision. I think that some of the businesses that will be really flourishing will be, for example, completely new platforms for collaborative work, online education, both platforms and content, the substance that I think it was Steve or I don't know who was mentioning in the beginning, Rhett. Of course, digital health. It will be like a brand new universe. Health is so ineffective, bureaucratic, and so expensive. It requires disruption. Take your ball. Who is taking the ball and telling us this one is going down, this is going up?
I think I can step in.
Please, Rhett.
After 2008 and the recession, we saw companies like Uber and Airbnb, which completely disrupted industries. I think we're going to see, I don't have a crystal ball as to where that is, but we are going to have out of this companies like that completely rethink and disrupt their respective industries. I guarantee that's going to happen. It happens after most recessions, but I think this one particularly, we're gonna see some really fascinating new types of companies. I think.
Do you expect this to be spin-offs? Do you expect to have a completely new players like Google some years ago, like others, which basically reshuffled the 500 top companies in the world?
I think we're going to have some reshuffles, no doubt about it. I mean, you think about the companies, you just mentioned a couple things: healthcare, health tech, telemedicine. We're going to see disruptions in the way education is, in online education. I think there's some universities that are not going to survive this. I think we're going to completely shift the way we think about education now. I think there's going to be some really exciting stuff there. I think travel and service industries are going to really suffer. But you know, I going back to Airbnb for a second, my family and I just did an Airbnb experience. We're going to Chernobyl this week. We're going to feed the dogs at Chernobyl. And
wait.
You know,
That's a
Is this
showstopper, Rhett.
a prank, or you are going to Chernobyl, a weekend trip to Chernobyl?
So no. So Airbnb has these Airbnb experiences now, and they have the guy.
I didn't hear you well. Oh, thanks God. All right.
He actually goes to Chernobyl, and we're
All
on
right.
Zoom, and we are experiencing it. We're
Oh.
looking at the reactors, and he's actually
I got it.
he's showing us the city. It's actually, they've got wild dogs, and he knows all the wild dogs. And so the boys and I and my family, we're going to Chernobyl this weekend for like an hour Zoom call at Chernobyl. So I think that just some really because we love to travel, we can't travel now, so we're gonna go on this sort of excursion. So I think it's fascinating that we're doing these kind of things. And I think we're going to see some exciting new companies. I think big box retail is probably going to go out of business, but I think they're going to.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is a great example of brand innovation. They've got nothing from you, right? They're just taking you there. Like, we love to share content. That's why the WEBIT content is always for free. And there is no business, but still, they provide you the most important thing in the world: happiness.
Yep.
They make you happy. They send you places. They might not do it the best way possible, but their intentions are beautiful. So it's a great example. Thank you.
It's very reasonable. I think it was $10, and
so it costs money.
It costs money, but guess what?
So we're the only one that are not for profit, doing everything for free.
But we're helping the tour guide. I feel good about it because we're helping the tour guide, right, who has no tourist right now. And we're getting something out of it, an experience that
that's cool.
I wouldn't normally take my kids to Chernobyl. So, you know, it's a unique experience. And I think that's thinking creatively about how you can deliver on your service.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rhett. I really hate to say this final thing I have to say, but we only have a couple of minutes each to wrap up. So this crystal ball is still in your hands. I'm just throwing it into the hands of Karen.
I'll give it to you. So I hate to say this because I'm a New Yorker and we really thrive on restaurants, but I really think we're going to see a sea change in restaurants. I think people have discovered, being at home for this long, cooking for themselves, that there is a health benefit to having more eating at home with the family. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see the restaurant business come back the way it was. We'll still have restaurants, but I really think we're going to see a huge transformation. I don't think it's going to be what it was. And I think we have to start preparing for that now. And I think right now, at least in the States, we're looking at it like somehow if we can just get it back on track, all the restaurants will be back and the industry will be back where it was. And I think much like the travel industry, it's really in for some significant changes. And we need to start to confront that and figure out how to help people make that transition in food services so that we still have it, but it's not going to look the same.
Thank you, Karen.
I can add.
Yeah.
Sorry. If I can add, yes, I totally agree with Karen. Actually, when we talk about restaurants, for example, or also probably theaters and whatever. With restaurants, probably there is a big part of younger people who would love to go back and go to restaurants, whatever. But most people who have a family, kids, and everything, and we all had to be here and had to learn how to cook. And really, I see my husband, starting doing this over and over again, and we enjoy it. So yes, this is so big things will change, and that will be the big companies, like the big disruptors of the last kind of decade, or 2 decades, like, from Google, Twitter, from, Amazon. Let's look at Amazon. That's what's happening now with Amazon. It is the company that has been most thriving in the past 2 or 3 months all over the world. So let's look at what's happening. So they do have the capability and they do have the technology to do that, and they will improve. But look also another example that is really, important, I think. Look at the Metropolitan Museum, who's opening the doors virtually, obviously, and everyone now has got access. People who cannot spend $25 to go into a museum, people who live on the other side of the world, they still have access to the Metropolitan Museum. This is happening with the museums in London, the museums in Italy, everywhere. Is happening. So we have access to things that up to yesterday we could only have access to if we could physically go there, and now it's changing. And art is something else that is giving us happiness, and that's happening, for free. Most of people at least are giving it for free. Like traveling, like Rhett said, that's fantastic. I like to try that sometimes.
Well,
Angela, I listen to you, but I can imagine if it was now live and we meet, what a big hug I would have given you, right? And that would have been so different as an experience. Now we only enjoy the beauty of your mind.
Definitely, definitely. But thank you.
We have 3 minutes left. I have tons of questions that my audience is going to kill me. But yeah, you're so amazing, and I love talking to you. So I didn't ask any of the questions so far. There are a bunch. I will try to make it up. So first was, give an example of a company that brought a successful, made a successful move that it took time in coronavirus. We already gave Airbnb and others. So, and there are many of these questions that we actually answered. Thank you all for asking them. There is one. Give one advice that everyone should follow if she wants to be successful. Obviously talking about brands now. Ana Moreira from Spain. You have 30 seconds each to give that example and advice.
All right, well, I'll go first. And I would say be a trim tab. A trim tab is a little part of a rudder that allows you to move a whole ship. I learned this from Buckminster Fuller. The captain of a giant ocean liner turns the wheel. The wheel turns a little piece of the rudder called the trim tab. The trim tab turns the rudder, and then the rudder turns the whole ship in a new direction. A little change can make a big result. Be the little change, be a trim tab. Innovate there. I believe in the small businesses and entrepreneurs. We can do it.
Such a beautiful. Thank you so much.
I'll go very quickly. We already said disruption is key when we talk about marketing strategies, etc. Now we are already living in a world that's totally disrupted. So what we need to do now is to adapt, to evolve, and to grow from it, as we said at the very beginning.
Well, mine is very simple. Mine is very simple, which is everyone needs to have their personal brand, their CEO brand, and their business brand really in top shape. The messaging has to be clear. The visuals have to be clear. It has to be clearly represented online so people can see exactly who you are, what you stand for, what you offer.
Thank you so much, Karen. And
mine's simple. I remember the first day that I walked into my children's toy company. I had the keys to the office and to the factory, and I felt different in year 10 than I did on day one. Day one, I had no rules. I could figure out a solution to a problem. In year 10, I had processes and I had a way that we did things. Go back to day one. Think about your business as if it's the first day of that business, and you have to figure out how to make it work all over again. And that would be my advice.
Oh my gosh, I follow your advice for the past several months. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you all. You are so amazing. I would like to take the chance and to request you coming back to our studio sooner than later.
Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you so much, Plamen, and for your whole team.
Yes, and hopefully in person sometime soon.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, please.
In Hawaii.
Hopefully.
I'll be very happy to. Thank you.
Or any place, or Bulgaria, my home
country.
There we go.
Anywhere, just to be in person. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
For being
Wherever.
with us.
The world is beautiful everywhere.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Beautiful,
Aloha.
beautiful WebIT community. You've been with us for another great WebIT virtual episode with fantastic guests, which I had so much fun and pleasure to interview and talk to. Tomorrow, we will see you again, hopefully the same number, over 8,000 today.
Wow.
With Guy Kawasaki, with my dear friend Vivek Bapat, who is also member of the Global Impact Board of WebIT, and with Karen, who is joining us again and helping us this time represent you, the audience. Get ready your questions, hashtag WebIT, and start asking them now. Tomorrow live, we shall ask them on your behalf with Karen to Guy Kawasaki and Vivek Bapat on the topics connected to how brands survive the COVID crisis, cope with it, and excel. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure and honor to be together with you again. Looking forward to do it again tomorrow. Thank you.
This program is powered by thevirtual.show, making your offline events virtual.